Welcome, Bobby.
Thank you.
This is Bobby from Strung Out on Plentitudes, and he's going to be a guest for a future episode, if not 40. We'll see. We should probably just collaborate and make our own podcast.
100%.
Yeah. But Bobby is so gracious to record this demo with me because I have been hopping on consultation calls all week to say the same thing, essentially, with people who are interested in appearing on the podcast. And so I'm just going to pin this to the top of my posts. And if anybody is interested, anyone creative, it doesn't matter if you consider yourself an artist, but if you have any creative process, whether it's woodworking or underwater basket weaving or, studying planes, trajectories in the sky, calculating your life fortune on that, it doesn't matter. I don't worry too much about the labels of whether someone considers themselves a writer, a musician, a painter. It's just if you are in some kind of practice that you have found necessary to live, I want to know about it. And for every artist that appears on this podcast, I'm asking essentially 5 similar questions to everybody. But of course, everyone is so different. So all of the conversations, sorry, I'm trying to keep my leg unpinned. All of the conversations end up differently, as we are all little artistic snowflakes, probably with some form of ADHD or neurodivergency. So here we are. And the idea behind this podcast is to just have a conversation. It's not so much of a formal interview, but it's like we're both in our rooms hanging out and talking about primarily what happened in your life to make creative expression necessary. What happened to make the production of your art pertinent to your existence? What inspired you? What continues to inspire you? What are your routines? Some people, like my favorite writers, like Haruki Murakami, that guy is like...
That's one of my favorite writers as well.
My
favorite book is Hardboiled Wonderland and the End of the World.
You know what? I love that one, and that's the one I started with, but the Wind Up Bird Chronicles carved a hole in my chest that I'm never getting out of. Anyway, I admire him so much because he is like a marathon runner. He writes at 4 a.m. every day. He listens to jazz. He produces masterpieces like clockwork. And it's not to say that dude wakes up with hard, boiled Wonderland and the End of the World on the tip of his tongue, but he has a practice. He has routines.
Yeah.
I am not that way. I have been that way. You said that you wanted to be a teacher. We'll get into that conversation another time. But for many years, I woke up like clockwork every day before my alarm. My heart would just pound me open. Time to work. Make sure that you have all the lesson plans ready because 135 kids are going to be watching you and probably fucking with you. So you got to have your lessons tight. And then all the things, I got tired, and now I'm more of a type B person and 10 to 17 minutes late too. But you know what? I was only that much late because you said something like, not a problem. And
take your time.
And if you tell me to take my time, I'm going to take an extra 10 minutes. So thank you for that. And anyway, I'm so curious about whatever the practice is, because my practice, like it or not, is that I'll just wake up at 2 or 3 in the morning and have memories on my mind that I have to write out. And so the flow I have found comes in those dawn hours, like when people are like the Kundalini yogis, they wake up and do their sadhanas, like, is that how you say it? From like 2 to 5 in the morning. And that's not me either. But I do tap into that liminal space when my analytical side hasn't stepped in yet. So that's an example of my flow that I have found workable, but it's not sustainable. So I'm still cultivating my practices. Generally, I like to wake up at least 10 minutes before the first birds do and then write to them. Yeah. And that's a spiritual experience. And it's something that makes all of it just gives beauty back to life, really.
Yeah.
So that's why I write. I write to process and release the grief of my life, the happiness of my life, the complications and stagnation, all of it. And I am also writing to connect with others because, as you and I were talking before this interview, there's this idea that you have a book in you and it's like a dream. And
Yes.
you wake up every day envisioning that goal of it's like it's in your hands. And I'm not even signing it. I just want it on my tombstone. Not that she tried, but she did it. And it wasn't maybe great, but there's evidence that she completed the last dream of her life.
That's why
And
I went with a micro press and didn't go through querying letters and finding an agent. To me, it wasn't so much about how many people read it. It was the fact that I did it and it's out there.
yeah.
And it's a very large piece of me that's actually available for people to consume. And maybe it's a little performative, but they get to learn about me.
Yeah.
And
Yep. And I went through a period of my life where after a series of losses and people dying or me getting cancer, the people who love you, they check in and they try to connect. And I have found that I've been either at the bottom of the well or jumping into a volcano or unreachable. And so
yeah,
I started writing every day because I don't know how to connect with people right now either,
right.
who don't know what it is to wake up with the elephant on your chest that is
Yeah,
the person that you love that died every
yeah,
morning. And people are like, "Oh my God, it's been 2 years. Are you still doing this?" And I'm like, "He's still dead. Yes, I'm still
yes,
doing this."
yes.
And so I started writing and I just stopped, for better or worse, communicating with most people in my life. And the reality is, even in this very moment, that I am connecting more with people on Substack than I have been able to connect with some of the closest people I've ever loved.
I'm in a very similar situation. Absolutely.
And it's the first time I've ever related to the idea of all these Dungeons and Dragons, people that are talking to their friends online and they have this whole world. And I'm like, I'm not judging it. People are like, they're not real friends. I'm like, oh, they're my favorite friends.
Oh,
Like these
absolutely.
people that, and I didn't even learn your name until today, but we already had a rapport going of
Right.
reading each other's things and commenting and caring. And that's the other reason why I'm doing this podcast is to connect with people, not even necessarily to ease my grief, but because when I was on death's door and when I didn't know that I was going to make it through or that I even wanted to make it through, it was reading very visceral, raw, real expressions of grief and recovery
Right.
that got me through because therapy is great. Family, loved ones, they're great, but it and it's not like I'm a therapist, so it's not to say that you have to have schizophrenia to treat schizophrenia, or you have to have experienced like losing your brother and your partner and getting cancer and all the other things rapid back to back. No, no one's going to experience the same things as anyone, but we do know what it's like to ache
Yes.
for our
So
people.
universal. Yes.
Yeah, or ache for the parts of ourselves that are dead and new parts grow, but the other parts are dead. I can't ever go back to pre-cancer Jamie. She's dead.
Yeah.
So this is to connect with others, to learn from them. I'm always surrounding myself with people who I esteem, who I know more than I do about certain things. So that's the third part of this podcast is I am learning to be a better writer, to be a better creative, to be a better human who can care for herself.
Oh,
Right.
that's a very beautiful thought.
Well, I'm trying because I've always cared much more for other people than myself. And I think there are a lot of people out there that somehow, ironically, they feel it's easier to love others than themselves. And there's that whole debate of like, can you really love someone else if you don't love yourself? I mean, maybe, but it's not going to be sustainable because if you find someone who really loves themselves and you don't love yourself, then they become your sun and you're a satellite or whatever. It's not going to work. So, for those reasons, I've started this podcast. And in the beginning of the podcast, I usually like to start with a creative writing prompt or a drawing or whatever the art medium is. I try to meet people where they're coming from. And instead of going through these long introductions and here are all the accolades and this person, and now they're going to talk and you're just going to listen while you drive or do dishes, it's actually meant to be an engaging space where other people can tune in live. And if they want to be a fly on the wall, that's fine. Or if they want to engage in the chat and share their own thoughts, reflections, and excerpts, that's awesome. The idea, aside from connecting with others and escaping the traps of AI, which are flooding the artistic market, and people are like publishing things just rapid fire, and then you're seeing the same templates everywhere.
Yeah.
That we're becoming one group think. And so I do really honor the written word and my process with it. But right now, I just feel like what's calling me is this live engagement where no one can say a robot told you what to say, because I don't know what's coming in this interview except for these 5 questions that I ask. And so I've been writing in real time. I've been editing in real time. I've been creating in real time. I've been talking about the process in real time to model not just like, yeah, I'm an artist, because I don't even consider myself that, but just to negate or push back on this world that has so many filters, that on social media, we are so connected and we're so far apart. And I've followed like thousands of artists online, and I keep seeing these templates. And it's like, I know there's a heart in there. I know the content is original, but it's been shaped.
Right.
And that is creating more distance than it's, creating connection, because it's AI's brain.
AI has a very specific voice that is not natural to most people,
Or even
and it's very
ChatGPT
identical.
or Grok, like there are different voices within different programs. But yeah, it's like that is the voice, that's the umbrella, that's the skeleton behind all of these living bodies that are trying to produce art with good intentions. But I don't think they realize that there's a watermark on your art.
Yeah.
They're co-writing with you, and that you actually do need to give writer's rights to a robot if you're going to use it. So that's why we're going into the podcast. And then I'm going to just take my damn time putting out my articles. So thank you for being willing to appear on the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. And the other questions, the other questions of, how do you, when people do feel like they have writer's block or they're stuck, or like you were saying before I hit the record button, that after you published your first book, you didn't write for 6 months.
Yeah.
Like you felt like you weren't a writer anymore, ironically.
Yeah.
And so one of the questions I always want to know is, how do we get through that? What is it that turns the light back on? Is it you waiting for an inspiring moment, or is it the dedication that you put your butt in the chair and you ignore the inner critic that's saying you're not a writer anymore, and you just keep doing it? Because a writer is not someone who publishes. A writer is someone who just writes. It doesn't matter if it's good or not. There's no such thing. So So that's one of the questions is what helps you to navigate the inner critic, the analysis, writing for a publisher, writing for an audience. Like we all say, no, I'm writing for me. But ultimately, there's at least one sliver of us that's like, I hope that someone likes it or connects with it. Like,
Oh, absolutely.
or at least two people or 10, that would be nice. But then you get into these numbers and boom, now you're out of the creative process. You're like, what do I have to do to get 250? What do I have to do to like make money off of my art? Which isn't actually a pretty noble pursuit and an honest question for everyone. It's not like, oh, you're a sellout. You're just making this art to sell it. It's like, no, I'm starving and poor. And I just really
Yeah,
love the thing that gives my
absolutely.
life meaning. So that's one of the questions. How do you work through those blocks? Are there people that help you? Are there crows that help you? Is it caffeine? Like, is it trauma? Like sometimes people don't write until they have to,
Yeah.
you know, and that's where a lot of us start. And then I'm also curious about how do you push against that ceiling because I have always felt like, oh, it is so easy to write when you're heartbroken. And that shit just flows like a hose. So how do you write when you're bored? How do you write when you're joyful? How do you write when you have just been very embarrassed by something that you did? You showed your ass. How do you continue showing your face? You know?
Yeah, I my first book is very much around this theme, and I personally relate to the theme of looking outwards and not so much inwards. I think too much introspection can be damaging.
Yeah.
Where we're very much social creatures, and we live in a world of nonstop cultural noise and debris that we're supposed to take meaning from. So I don't find myself writing because I feel like I need to. I find myself writing because I'm a manic consumer of all sorts of media, and I find it interesting how it affects me uh, on an artistic level. So I very much, for example, if I have trouble reading, I'm sorry, if I have trouble writing something, I'll do something like pull up a random Wikipedia page, right? I'll hit the random button and I'll create a story around what I see.
Mm-hmm.
Um, when I first joined Substack, I would write a microfiction every day. It's rooted in metamodernism, and I thought it would be a little strange or weird for Substack, which is mostly essays and genre writers, which I'm not either of those.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought I would have a hard time finding an audience, but I didn't. And people really gravitated towards the work I was producing, and I wound up having 100 different microfictions. And I thought, well, it would be cool to write all of these microfictions in a story
Yeah.
with a linear narrative.
Yeah.
And uh, so you have a character in the book that comes across a book of these microfictions that they're either funny or they're heartbreakingly sincere and sad, and they speak to the main character in a way where it mirrors his life and affects him very deeply. So that was my first book, strung out on plenitudes,
And I was
and
wondering where that name came from.
yeah, it's very much about the cultural debris that we're exposed to, and there's just a plenitude of it, and you can get very strung out on it. You're always looking for meaning. You're scrolling to find something maybe beautiful or funny, and you
Mm-hmm.
want something to affect you very much.
Yeah.
So yeah, that cultural debris. And somebody had said recently that my work was very American, and that's very much so. Where the pop culture references and that
Mm-hmm.
that desire to consume. I mean, there's so much to consume these days. It wasn't always like that. You didn't get to be as picky or choosy.
People had to
And there's so
consume
many
the
different
serial
ways.
novels like Mole Flanders and, but they would,
Yeah,
and the Jane Austen. It's like they're sitting there telling stories, maybe, or fighting or getting drunk, and then they have that one day that they know that serial is coming,
exactly.
but
Yeah,
they're still consuming. And people are in every age, but you're right that it's speeding up and it's more accessible. There's more options. And that is the question, is why is it that people are always trying to escape their lives? And to what extent is some escape totally healthy? And then where's the point where it's like, yes, I'm strung out now on
right, exactly.
social media?
Yeah. I think that when you manically consume what's around you, it can affect you in a variety of ways. And the book Strung Out on Plenitudes was very much about how this cultural noise affects you, and what that does to your psyche, to your habits, to the actions you take. And sometimes it could be great, that overconsumption, where it will affect you in a way that you could have never imagined when you
Yeah,
come across a book, a TV show, a painting that is so outside of who you are, and it strikes you deeply,
yeah,
that it affects then how you produce and what
right,
you produce.
right.
I had that experience. I remember at a young age reading A Crack Up by the Race Riots by Harmony Korine,
Mm,
and it was very abstract, and it would go, you would have, like, for example, Tupac Shakur's favorite artists, right? And you would have, like, they would create this world around pop culture, uh, and it opened up a different narrative style in me, where you can have totally absurd uh, irony and cynicism, and you can balance it out with a very uh, beautiful sincerity. And that's what metamodernism is. That's what I write in, where you take the cynicism, the irony of postmodernism, and you balance it out with true sincerity from modernism.
hmm
And I'm totally obsessed with it, and I love every minute of it, and I love writing it. I love reading it, and I used to be very much a postmodernist, where I was lost in irony and cynicism, and I felt like it was a true way to rearrange parts of society into interesting ways, to notice the ironies, and I found it a little overwhelmingly sad, to be honest. And balancing that out with true sincerity, I think allows you to absorb that irony and sincerity in a more playful way, and realize that the world can be a great place. um yeah.
Yeah, it can. It can. And yeah, I'm always searching for balance. Don't know if I'll ever find it. Like maybe we are wobbly on the tip of it for a split second, or maybe we can just be delusional and say we're in balance all the time. But whatever
Right.
it is,
I think they're divine moments.
divine moments, and they are defined culturally. So what is balance in one culture is not in another. Like in Spain, they may not put their business hours on a door, like a post office door.
Right.
And
Yeah.
I'm here to mail a letter, and the business should be open. It's like, well, sorry, we're in August and it's hot. And then you go at lunch hour and it's like a whole line is around the corner and you've got one person working in the busiest center of the city and they're out on a cigarette break and having a donut. Not to like say anything negative about the Spanish people, but it's like people do. They look at that like the Germans would look at that, or some of the more northern like capitalist driven countries would be like, they're lazy down there, those Mediterraneans. And it's like, well, guess what? If we're hopping over to a blue zone, definition of health, they're living longer than most people and they drink every day.
Yep.
So anyway, Llama. Oh, Llama, Llama. I just talked to her yesterday. She's just my new favorite woman in the world.
That's awesome.
She is an art therapist in Dubai, and God, I love this woman. She is so like her essence is honey. Um, all right. I also am interested too. Have you always written fiction or did you cross over?
I am totally, wholly incapable of writing nonfiction. There's something in me that finds it um, not enjoyable, the process.
Hmm.
I know I'm not good at it.
How
Um,
do you know that? Who
I
told you
well,
that?
just having experience in college, let's say, of writing nonfiction, where
Fire the
uh, yeah, it just didn't appeal to me. I felt like I would insert uh, poetry into it,
Yeah. Yeah,
into a
you just
nonfiction piece.
gravitate towards this other world that
Yes.
mirrors this one, but it's easier for you to inhabit.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. If I'm not, like I said, I'm either manically consuming something, and then the converse of that is manically creating.
Mhm.
And to me, for example, like in college, I was originally an art major, and I remember taking figure drawing classes, and
Oh,
I was great at it, but I hated
you're
it.
drawing.
I was an abstract painter,
Mm.
and I remember doing the figure drawing classes, and you have to learn techniques and rules before you can break them, to
Yeah,
truly be abstract and have it make an impact. But I felt like I was capturing moments that weren't germane to my life, that was just a method of being a historian, of recording
yeah,
what I'm seeing.
yeah,
And
that's
that doesn't appeal to me.
mhm. In college, I changed majors like 4 times because
Me
I,
too. Yeah.
when I was 5, I wanted to be a cow. How am I supposed to know, Like, I
Right.
didn't know if you
Yeah.
wanted to be a dentist. I was like, "The cows are peaceful. Like,
Yep.
why would I wanna be that?" And then it's taken me a while to have to get professional about how I'm paying the bills. But
Yeah.
when I was in college, my first major was a journalism major, and I was an intern for the Tennessean, and I would do music reviews and the occasional Shakespeare play review, and then like random food reviews, and then I would just file all day for all the real writers. And in that
Right.
experience, I looked around and I saw all of them just like it was a meat factory. Like, you have a deadline, you have a deadline, you have a deadline, you got to pop it out. And it stressed me out. And I'm like, I'm not even telling I'm telling a story that people are gonna consume and throw it with the trash in one day. Well, probably like anything we produce, but also it took the joy out of it for me. Some
Yes.
people love that lifestyle. Some people are driven by a deadline. They operate in high stress environments, which I do too, but not creatively. Like,
Right.
I need some deadline, but to be like, "Yep, here's this whole piece, and you gotta spin it, and it's ready for production at 4 AM." And I'm like, "This is not fun. I don't wanna do that." Like, it broke me, and before I even was gonna do that, the only reason one of 2 reasons that I went to college at Belmont University in Nashville is I was playing piano, and I thought, "I would like to study piano." And
Hmm.
then you walk through all the practice halls, and while I have utmost regard for anyone who will practice 7 hours a day at anything, I didn't wanna sit at a piano bench with my posture, like, and my hands, you know, I already have, like, 2 broken pinkies and, like, carpal tunnel, like, I couldn't
Right.
even imagine being by myself for 7 hours, ripping back and forth over someone else's songs.
Yeah, I was a musician for a while, and I played guitar and bass, and I taught myself how to play only the songs that I wrote. I never practiced. I couldn't tell you the name of a chord. I couldn't play anybody else's song. But the act of creation and kind of abstractly looking at how my fingers could create a sound on the fret that was appealing and how that can move into another sound, uh, was I really enjoyed it. I should have practiced more so when we did our recordings, it sounded better, I think.
I
But
am so um I love the type of person that you are because I'm the same. When I decided to ditch piano and then journalism, and then I decided, yes, I will get a master I'll get a bachelor's in European studies with a minor in Italian so I can work at PF Chang's as an artist, and then
right,
whatever. But I when I dropped those focuses, then I just went into the practice rooms like at midnight or 2 a.m. and figured it out by myself. And I swear to God, like the best songs I have ever written were in those moments when I knew nothing.
yeah,
Nothing. And there is something to be said about studying somebody else's craft and improving your skill. And of course, someone came before you that's informing your path. And also, I'm so addicted to originality that it's like it
yeah,
repels me to learn someone else's cadence. And
yeah,
so I'm so curious to know. I wish I could go back in time and be a fly on the wall and hear what you were hearing, because if you didn't even know the chords, you had to have had a lot of dissonance, and I wonder how much of that you loved, and how much of that and coloring outside of the lines and stream of consciousness and beatnik and all these squiggly art forms that are not structured and classical are there's an end to that question. I wonder, what was it? The question is, well, essentially, like, how do you create something original in a world where everything comes before you?
yeah.
What?
I was heavily influenced by in the mid to late 90s the emo core scene where they were taking hardcore and attaching like beautiful emotion and poetry to that kind of urgent violence of the music. I was very much into indie rock, uh obscure experimental music. So I had a very well defined aesthetic.
Did you
I,
listen to Mountain Goats or like,
oh yeah, absolutely, I'm very familiar with them. Yeah,
yes, that's so
yeah.
fun.
um so I knew what my aesthetic was, and I knew the talents of the other people in the band. Um, and I said to myself, what I didn't so much say to myself, what sound do I want, but what emotion do I want to convey? And I
Mhm.
played with the strings until something struck me, and developed that into a song, and then wrote the lyrics. And I was the screamer in the band. We had two vocalists and a screamer.
Are you going to drop a link to this early band in the chat?
You know what? I was speaking to someone and they wanted to hear my old band, and this is going back decades. And I just found two songs, but they're not online. They were I had to dig for them. I did release an EP a few years ago of instrumental, uh, kind of electronic post rock, and that's online, so I could definitely drop a link to that. It's not
Again,
mixed or mastered. Yeah, it's not mixed or mastered. I don't have the ear to do
no
that. I'm not.
disclaimers. We don't even it's out there and you don't have any control. Well, you can control the narrative. Go ahead.
Yeah, and it was during a very hard period of my life, and I was, instead of manically consuming, I was manically creating, and I
Mhm.
was creating song after song after song, and I realized I had this whole treasure trove of either sketches of songs or complete songs. And I was like, one day, very much like my writing, I was like, you know what? It would be pretty cool to just have it out there. Not that I didn't promote it, I didn't ask people to listen to it. Just for me to release an EP was something that, if I meet somebody new, they could learn a little bit about me.
Yeah.
And that's very much how I approach my books as well, where it's not something I'm going to make a living from.
Mhm.
Um, but it's definitely something that if I had to create a bucket list when I was 15 and having an album and books released into the wild, that would have been it.
For sure.
And
And
so I
maybe
feel really
take a
accomplished with
spirit
that.
to Patagonia, you know?
I'm sorry, say that again?
And also, if I'm adding to the bucket list, because I did say the last dream I have is to publish a book, and that's a major bucket list thing. Of course, I have other dreams, but I was slipping in there, like, in addition to
Right?
publishing loads of early garage band songs and, like, you know, a book made out of 7-Eleven receipts. I
Yeah.
would like to travel through Patagonia as quietly as they come and not as a tourist, not as anyone that is part of a group, but just like, can I enter into another culture and listen and
Yeah.
appreciate what is? And that's part of why I say I've completed most of what I ever wanted to live for because I got to go to 27 countries and live in all these cities and
Wow.
different languages and like I saw the world.
Right.
Not only it, the more you see, the more you know nothing about the
Yep.
world. You know
Yes.
nothing. And that I think is to tie it back to this general theme of creating art is it's like, okay, learn what paint is going to be more sustainable and cost efficient and study enough so you don't ruin your paintbrushes and then just feel it.
Yeah.
I can remember the first time I ever painted watercolor. My sister showed me how because she was taking art classes when she was in college. And I remember I had my hand like this, and I was going like this, like how we color with, you know, pencil.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
And she was like, "You hold it like this because see how that one brush, you lost it. And if you go like this, then not only might it look better, but you'll be able to keep your brush." And it stuck with me. Um,
Technique. I
technique
mean,
is, you know,
technique
you
is
have it
extremely
balanced. It's
important.
like technique is important, but I'm always so interested by the people who figure it out by themselves because, like you said, when I took piano lessons from the time that I was, I don't know, I don't remember when I started, 5,
Right.
6, early, 7, I don't know. But I went every week until high school. And when I
Right.
got to high school, I quit because the recitals were causing me so much anxiety that I would freeze. I was
Right.
actually really, really, really an introvert, and I always have been. It's true, like, I can perform, I can put it on, I can be chatty or too chatty, but I really, really just wanna go in my cave and hide and, like, be with myself, and so I quit the recitals because it was like the metronome and the you gotta learn new pieces every 2 weeks, and it's gotta be ready to and it's just it took the joy out of it for me, and so part of that I'm grateful for because it gave me a vocabulary, but when I got to college and it was when I quit piano lessons is the first time I ever played for emotion. And
Yeah.
my songs were so much simpler and longer and melodic, and nobody would probably produce it or buy it. Like 5 people might buy it. I don't know. It's all like the worst, scratchiest recording ever. But I came back my first year in college and recorded it uh, on some shitty recording device on my phone, and I put it on the piano that I grew up learning on, and the last 3 keys are out of tune, and, like, you can hear the phone vibrating against it, it's just, like it's really bad, but there's something so perfect about it because it
Oh,
was a
yeah, some of my favorite music is extremely imperfect. For example, in some grindcore that I was really into, you have a moment where the voice cracks, right? So you're screaming and you're screaming and screaming, but you hear a deep sincerity in screaming until your voice cracks and it sounds weird. Um, Lou Barlow's album, The Freed Weed, it's literally him and a guitar and probably a old, outdated recording instrument, and the music is so imperfect, but that imperfection leads to absolute beauty. So I really enjoy the imperfect in what I consume, because it brings out the process in the person.
It brings out the person, and that's I remember learning this lesson, I think, for the first time in, when I was, like, 21, and my boyfriend at that time took me to this independent jeweler in like down on Murfreesboro Road in Tennessee. And this guy found pearls from the rivers around us.
Right,
And he would make these beautiful rings. And I remember going to the shop and I'm like, I want that one. And it was like a perfect pearl
hmm,
and the band, just silver, gold, pearl. And he said, "This is the only one I have." And my fingers, they're like, this is a size 2.5 or 3. Like I have children's fingers. So he had to make me a ring. And I was so excited. I waited and waited. And when it was ready and we went to pick it up, I opened it and there was like a knob on it. It was smooth. And then there was a knob on it. And I remember thinking, like, this isn't what I picked. This has an error. It has a flaw. And he gave me this whole lesson about how that is what makes it beautiful. And at
right,
the time, I thought, this guy's just trying to sell me some cheap ass pearl in his back room. But I agree. It gives you something that your eye keeps looking at and wondering about, like, how did that knob get there? What was the grain of sand that was so abrasive to this tiny little creature that it coated it and coated it and coated it and coated it until finally it could live again.
yeah, yeah. I think that's a very important thing to notice is, and that could be anything. That could be uh, a tone in a book that rubs you the wrong way, right?
Yeah.
That you're like, do I like this character? I thought I was supposed to like this character,
Yep.
and and you wind up paying more attention to the things that aren't straight and narrow and polished to perfection. The things that seem out of place are generally more interesting than the things that are laid out in a very neat line.
Yep.
Uh, yeah,
And
I
it's
absolutely
that
relate to this.
messy is attractive to everyone. Obviously, it's not. And I'm not looking to go find someone's mess and live in it, but I do demand that people show some raw mess. And that is what AI does not show.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I find it in painting too. I haven't painted in a long time, but when I did paint, I would look at something that I did unintentionally as an error, and I would very strongly focus on that error and see if it added anything to the form, to the expression, and and that's where like happy errors, happy little errors.
Yeah.
And I think that that adds a personality, it adds a signature, and it adds a uniqueness that I find very attractive in the media I consume.
Mhm. It reminds me because a lot of what I'm writing about is reckoning with shame, to be honest. I mean, it's
Mhm.
reckoning with having made decisions during a compromised period of grief that at the time I was unaware of or did because I was so departed. And then I came back around in my sober mind and looked at all of it and was shocked and horrified at times. Sometimes I'm like, that was cool. That was
Yeah,
pretty pathetic, you know? And then
yeah,
other times I'm like, oh God, no, it's on the internet forever. And then it's it reminds me of a conversation I've had with my dear friend Liz, who walks with me on the beach, and we talk. She's like just a soul sister who has been through the shit of it so many times that
right.
the way that she appears so successful and polished, no one would ever know. And she has walked me through when I go through my diatribe of all of my mistakes that I bludgeon myself for. and I say, "Nothing good can come of this. I swear, like, I hurt people, and it can't be undone,
Right.
and I have to live with that forever." It doesn't matter if I was out of my mind. It doesn't matter if intention doesn't, it's like it doesn't equal consequence. Too bad. You
I
have
am
to.
a firm believer in intention. I believe
Yeah,
we are so imperfect in our actions, but if you have a good, sincere intention behind what you're trying to do, that's a foundation.
I
And you
agree.
might not build the building perfectly, but if you're really coming true from your heart, then that's the most beautiful thing you can do.
Yes, and actually, I just read an article about that last night from a profile on Substack that's called "Me in Fragments," and in the middle of his post, he's talking about karma, and he's laying it all out after all these years of psychedelic use, and what is karma, and he brings it back to intention. It's not whether you did the thing or you didn't do the thing. And it's not that some God outside of you is remembering and they're going to give you this sentence. It's like it already
Right.
lives inside of you. Did you have the intention? Was your intention right or was it not? Because we can appear to have goodness while we are manipulating and calculating the whole damn time. Not that
Right.
I identify with that, but it's out there. These
Yeah.
sharks,
Yeah.
narcissists,
Absolutely.
people preying on you. So intention is everything. And all I'm going to say to loop back around is that when I was in the first 3 months after Joshua died, I had no intention because I was not alive anymore. I was gone. Like my brain, my body, it pixelated into psychedelic stardust. And it took me a damn long time to get those marbles back in the jar because
Yeah.
part of me didn't want to come back. And then when I did come back and I looked at how unintentional I had been for so long, that was
Right.
my, and
Yeah.
that's
That
karma.
makes sense. That makes a lot of sense.
Even though I did not mean it. It's
Yeah.
because I didn't mean it, but then you go back and it's like, well, I made a choice that compromised my state, that allowed me to hurt these people. So that choice and those continued choices to self-medicate, that's my karma. That is the intention. And even then, I wasn't like, "Oh, I'm gonna take this so I can have an excuse for hurting people." No, it's just like, I'm on fire and I
Right.
need to put it out.
Right.
And anyway, I'm walking along the beach with this godsend of a woman, and I'm telling her about these mistakes that just can't be undone. They can't be, you can't tell a nice story about it. You can't. It's an ugly story. It's shitty. Period. End of story. Or then she says, maybe, maybe,
Right.
maybe, in fact, surely there are people you will never go back to that never want to come back to you, that version
Yeah.
of you. And because of that version of you, they don't want to know future versions of you. It does not matter, you know?
Yeah.
And that's what I have to live with. But she also really emphasized that you don't get to decide what it means for you, and you don't get to decide what it means for them. Actually, you do get to maybe tell a story about what it means for you.
Hmm.
And then it's maybe that breaking point that causes you to dramatically change your life, where then it's a catalyst to becoming your best self because you had to feel the depths in order to
Right.
get to you had to go to hell. And because I went to hell and I would never choose to go back there, but I can understand when other people are in it and not bludgeon them with judgment and shame the way that I bludgeoned myself.
Yeah. My books came from a very long period of bad times. And I don't think they would have come out anywhere near as interesting if I hadn't experienced that. And everybody
Mhm,
goes through bad times, but
mhm.
what can you do with that?
Right.
You
What do we do
can
now?
become very self-aware and realize that this is who you are now, and you could like introspect to the point where you can never break out of that, or you can look out into the world and try to find beauty and things that are interesting. And that's very much how my books uh, uh, progress, is looking outside to make yourself a better person. We're always looking inside, but you can get caught in a self-referential loop
Mhm.
of just always looking inside where you can't grow if you're always just staring at something that's part of you. And uh, coming to a realization that you went through it and survived really pushes out of you when you're creating a lot of trauma. And I didn't realize a lot of that until I did a live chat with Alex and Sandalore, and they were noticing themes in my book or
Mhm.
my books that I hadn't realized myself. And when they mentioned them, I was like, oh, wow, that wasn't intentional, but it is so true. And that made me realize I was probably in a very vulnerable state where I was being a little more honest than I thought I was being because I was writing fiction, but I did write myself into it in a way that I was unaware of.
And we all do.
Yeah,
You know, and that's the thing about art. There are so many different theories about if you create something, is it for the reader to understand it with the intention that you created it for? Or there's, the I guess postmodern school of thought that's just like, yeah, you can have whatever intentions you want behind it, but once you release it, that is for them to interpret however they will, and that is their truth and what they see it as, maybe what it is and maybe not. It's all perception, but it's like, there we write to excavate, and it's like a, what do you call it, the when you're coughing and it's like you the expectorant.
separating.
It's like
Yeah.
I write to just cough it up sometimes. It's like, oh, I feel better now, like it's
And
out there.
I don't. And I realized maybe I did. I
Right.
write just for the enjoyment of putting words together and for an audience. I'm very much audience driven. If I didn't have an audience, I don't know if I would create as much. I don't, it's not something I do for myself that I feel like is a growth experience. Um, I don't know if I'm self-aware enough and maybe that's a fault of mine, if I'm self-aware enough to see how putting pen on paper can affect me in terms of growth as a person, relieving myself maybe of some trauma. I do it specifically not to insist upon the reader, and in a very postmodern and metamodern way, allow them to get what they can get out of it. Uh, the narrative itself is very tied up in giving them a complete package that's satisfying, but the language and the tone and the messaging behind the narrative can be interpreted a multitude of ways.
Mhm.
And I find that part about how people interpret it more interesting and fulfilling than the writing of it. So to me, a lot of people, say, if there wasn't an audience, would you write? And the correct answer is supposed to be, of course I would write. That's for me. It's for me. And I'm the total opposite. I don't write for myself. I write to see how somebody else absorbs it. And I love the different meanings that people pull out of it. And I love that when it's discussed, I can learn more about myself and maybe what I was going through at the time when I wrote it.
Yeah. And I don't think this should be stigmatized, someone writing for an audience, because how many of us can honestly say that we're not hoping to connect with someone when we put something out there,
Exactly,
right?
exactly.
And there's a difference between I'm writing for the number of subscribers, or I'm writing for the accolade, or I'm writing for, it's like people have different reasons for excellence or for just proving themselves, or some standard was set by their family. Who knows? I think it's brave of you to just acknowledge, like, 100% I'm writing for an audience, and
Yeah,
that doesn't necessarily mean that, I mean, someone could read that of like, "Oh, this guy is just, like, superficial."
performative and yeah,
But
exactly.
I I write for myself, but there's definitely a deepening when it resonates with somebody else. And I think that's what the richness of life is, not for each other, but with each other, that we're sharing it, the load, that it's not
Yeah.
you carrying it by yourself. Now we're carrying it together and we're in conversation about it. And then we're thinking of new ideas and different worlds to inhabit.
It's like making a mixtape, right? And curating something. Like I'm huge into making mixtapes and I always have been. And to me, it's not so much, hey, listen to these great songs that I expertly crafted in a specific order with a theme in mind. It's, hey, this is how you get to know me as a person. If
Mhm.
you want to know what's impacted me in my life, I want to share. It's an expression of wanting to be understood. It's
Yeah,
not so much, hey,
totally.
let's listen to this rad song. It's
Totally.
it's it's very much so. I approach writing in that way too, where I, especially in my first book, it was a lot of curation of pop culture and skewing it and morphing it into a very meta modern way. But again, it's looking to the external and pulling what you can from it
Mhm.
and creating based on that.
Mhm.
So it's more like if you see a reference in my book and you get it, you get part of me, you get what interests me,
Mhm.
where I don't want to sit and talk to myself through words.
Okay, I'm gonna make 2 random guesses about
Okay.
what your sign is. Not that I really it's not gonna shape my relationship with you, but I'm curious because it's like, it could go either way. You could be like an Aquarius, you could be a covert Leo, or you could be a Scorpio.
Very close. I'm a Pisces.
Well, that's not that
I'm on the cusp. I'm on the cusp of a Pisces and an Aquarius. Is that
okay.
did I get that right? Those two are next to each other.
Satisfied with that answer. Um,
Okay.
Pisces are water signs, and they're not fixed, right? Like a Scorpio is fixed and Pisces unfixed. Is that? I don't know. But Pisces go with everybody, and they're people fish. They're people, and
Right.
they are the connecting weave between all of these different people groups
I
that
have had that experience in my life where I've always been the person that has a group over here of people that are dear to me, a group over here of people that are dear to me. I connect them and they're lifelong friends, and some of them get married. And I've always been that connective tissue in social situations.
yeah. You have
Yeah,
friends I would
absolutely.
never have, let's put it that way, and
Right.
it's not because I'm, like, a mean, hateful person, I just don't gravitate to a lot of types of people,
Right.
and so but I always gravitate to Pisces. My 2 historic best friends were born on March 11th and March 12th,
Right.
and we found each other just like that.
Wow.
And yeah, I mean, it's just a thing. That's what makes me buy into astrology a little bit because I'm like, how is it that I only have best friends who are Pisces? I've never dated one. I go well with Libras because who doesn't? They're flirty and balanced and fun.
Right.
And they're right next to the Scorpio. So we have kind of and then I have found myself in deep relationships with other Scorpios. We just like to like burn it up, and like, brood in the cave.
Right.
But I've had 2 interactions, episodes with Leos. And after the first one, I was like, fuck these people. The world is my stage. Like, I'm like so disgusted by that. Like, look at me. Like, I am. But, they bring a lot of sun and light and laughter and charisma, and we need the sun. But it's just, yeah. So I'm trying to loop it back, not to go on a deep a bird walk. Um, you That makes sense for how you produce because you were wanting to create community.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm very good at picking out uh interesting people and people with good hearts, and those people, it's hard to find another person that's interesting with a good heart. Uh and so connecting those people and then becoming that connective tissue is very rewarding, I think.
Yeah, it really is. We love our Pisces. I have one tiny question for you.
Okay.
On a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being chronic or even severe, and 1 being I don't relate to that at all, and 5 being sometimes, sometimes not. How often do you find yourself swallowing a true statement for somebody in the moment? Like you have a thought and you're like, here's what I really want to say to this person right now, but I'm going to hold on to it. And maybe I'm going to hold on to it. And I don't know, I'm going to second guess. Is it right? Is it, maybe I'll just not. And then maybe there's a passive aggressive moment
Right.
or resentment.
It's hard to assign
How
a numeric
often?
value to that. I will say that I'm very conscientious of the person's state, right? Are they in a state to receive certain types of information?
That is the question, and that is such a beautiful question, and also, I mean, it's very respectful, and of course, you see me triggered because this is a historical problem of mine. It's
Right.
also it can bleed into codependency where you then start taking responsibility for someone else's reaction to your truth. So
Right.
there is a way to gauge, obviously, like not that I perform the skills of DBT well all the time, but I
Mhm.
do know the skills of dialectical behavioral therapy. And one of the skills, it's like the fast skill, but it's like how to set a boundary, telling the truth. You don't shy away. And all of the interpersonal effectiveness skills are about like gauging when is the right time, the right place, making sure you don't have emotional vulnerabilities and they don't either. Don't have a fight when you're hungry, when you're like on a
Yeah.
train, when you're in bed at night. Like when is the right time? But I always wished that my Pisces people would say, hey, I have a thought and I don't know if it's the right time for you, but when you're ready, I'd like to sit down with you.
Yeah,
But
I
I
could be more mindful in that
that.
way.
So they held it, held it, held it, held it,
Yeah.
held it. I was in grief for fucking ever, and then didn't say it, and then it's like there's this rupture, and I didn't
Right.
see it coming because
Yeah.
they were gauging me the whole time, and I'm so direct, too direct sometimes.
Yeah.
And that scares them away because they're like, "Oh God, never is
Right.
the time." And so, like, it's that Scorpio sting where I drop straight to the truth. I would rather know the truth in a heartbeat. I don't care how painful it is. Just give it to me straight because if you're gonna sugarcoat it, circle around the bushes, wait 6 months, like that feels like a lie.
Right. Right.
It
Yeah.
feels like we're not being vulnerable with each other anymore, and that filter and that slow distancing, that is the rupture in the relationship to me.
Yes.
Whereas someone on the Pisces end, they might say, "Actually, I had something I really wanted to tell you, but because you're so direct and harsh with your truths, I don't wanna engage with that. I'll come back when
Yeah.
you're cool."
Yeah. I find it. I'm an extremely truthful person, but I when I'm vulnerable and the other person's vulnerable, uh, and there's a very deep connection, I find myself extremely truthful.
Mhm.
But I don't want to trigger a flight or fight response in somebody. I don't want to make a situation worse. I feel like a lot of times the truth I have to tell, they already know. And do they need somebody confirming what they already know?
I
Do they
have
need
had
somebody
all
to
my
disagree?
Pisces people tell me that, those exact lines, and it's true, it's fair, and it's not it's like a different approach that is beautiful. And then I just wonder about, like, when you continue asking those questions inside of yourself without sharing it with the person of, like, "I'm having the thought that," or, "I have this question, what if?" And I feel like you might know this, but I don't know, and I wonder if you are aware, and if not, is it okay if I share something with you?
Right? Yeah.
Alright,
Yeah.
we just
Very
solved
interesting.
marital problems for everyone. You're welcome, everybody.
We have
Not
a
only
self help book coming out soon.
like, oh God, I just appreciate artists so much because we're working our conflicts out, like wringing just the cloth, and that either serves people or the people immediately in our circles are running for the hills.
Right?
And I don't know what to say about it. Tell your truth, kindly as you can tell it, but tell the truth. Tell the
Yeah.
truth.
Yeah.
I would much rather resolve a conflict from someone telling their truth too harsh than someone holding their tongue.
Right. Right. Yeah, and I think it depends again on the specific type of relationship. I've had people that are so close to me that maybe I tell the truth in a way that will affect them negatively.
Yeah.
Because I feel that closeness, I feel like it's a duty to be very blunt and very upfront. Uh, if there's something I truly believe in that needs to be said for the other person's well-being. And then I've been in other situations with people that I've been close with where I know if I say certain things, it might deeply affect them in a negative way. And that's the last thing I want, is to have a negative impact on somebody. So yeah, I come at it from a very uh, conscious place.
And that is where you have good karma, is that you're intentional, and your
Right.
intention is to love and care about these people, even when it might create distance in the relationship.
Yes, absolutely.
But there is a contribution, whether conscious or not. It's like when I look back, and I've written about this, when I look back and I'm like, where was the moment? Where was the moment? Where was it? A string of 100 moments? And I'm pretty intuitive. So of course I'm feeling into it, and I'm like asking, like, what's up? What are you
Right.
feeling? What are you thinking? And that's like the gaslighting thing for me, is you can feel it. You can
Right.
feel it, that people are feeling and thinking something that they're guarding, that they don't want to share with you. And that's the thing, is you don't know what they're guarding. Is it your
Right.
feelings? Is it theirs? Is it that
Yeah.
they don't know how to approach a direct conversation because it was never modeled to them? Like,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah. That's very
personal.
interesting. It's very interesting.
I don't know. But I love that. I love that you went with me on that tangent, because I did not mean to talk about
Absolutely.
astrological signs right now. All right. Well, thanks to everyone for joining this chat. This was not scheduled whatsoever. I was just supposed to do a 15-minute chat with Bobby this morning. And then as we were talking, I was like, listen, I cannot do another consultation call of repeating the same like info to people that would like to be a part of these podcasts. So if anyone is interested in having a conversation and creating art together, in we're ultimately creating together and thinking about that process, what it felt like, what inspired us, what inhibited us, what does it do when there is the added layer of an audience who's commenting in real time. And I've had some artists that are banging true, like that you can't, they're like the real deal. And it's not their strength, or they may not feel called to speak about it. You know? So I appreciate just anybody who is willing to come and talk it out. And there's no right way, no wrong way. I just enjoy connecting. And I've been enjoying the chat. Are you able to see the chat, or is it just me?
I see like a line at a time, but then it disappears kind of
Oh,
quickly.
okay. Yeah, my guest yesterday, she was wanting to see the chat and respond to it. And my first guest was able to, but I don't know what you're seeing on your end, because I
I'm
can
not
see.
seeing anything that I can respond to.
Okay. Well, we've had lots of people join. Lama says keep writing. The Warden's Archive joined. We have a scheduled interview later next month. I'm so excited for that one. She does a lot of fantasy fiction, and so we were talking about like why fiction versus creative nonfiction. And I think it can be more fun inhabiting these other worlds, but of course
Yes.
we've all got something to say, and sometimes the people in our lives are not ready for us to say it, so we change forms,
Yeah.
so that we don't harm. um Elias says aloha. His phone's glitchy. He'll be back. And lots of Lama says that this type of unstructured interview never happens in Dubai. I think that's what she was referring to, of kind of just this off the cuff co-creating.
Right.
And yeah, we've got Alexi, who says, I don't like poetry for poet enjoyment, which is interesting. There are so many comments that have been made that I want to dig into. I'm like, what does that say more? What does that mean?
Right.
Also, why don't you want to entertain nice people? Oh, that came in when we were talking about, well, I think when I made the comment of how someone could be viewed as superficial or, I don't know, materialistic or attention seeking with the audience. And it's like, well, also you're creating things for nice people. What's wrong with that? You know?
Exactly. I like to give gifts, right? I love thinking about other people, and if I could wrap a piece of myself as a gift that I think would be received well, that's a wonderful feeling.
Yeah. And then I think someone guessed that you were Pisces before I did. That was Alexi too. So I think unless Alexi is a Pisces too, I don't know. I guessed looks into chat. Okay. So yeah, we've got lots of cool people hanging out and talking about attachment styles and what triggers us. And yeah, people talking about how they staying approachable makes me fight or flight with everyone. So I asked I wonder what triggers that response and visual triggers. But yeah, I mean, we're such tender, delicate little humans. I'm proud of
Yes,
all of us. Look at us. We're sitting
absolutely.
in chairs and doing a thing, and other
Yeah.
people are doing it with us. Amazing. Well, because this wasn't structured, usually they go 90 minutes, but I think this is a good place to pause, and I'll certainly be talking with you more. But one I wanted to follow up on a little bit is at the beginning of our conversation, we were describing the existential doom that ensues after you reach a milestone. It's like, I did it, I published the book, it's out in people's hands, and then the next day just slam into depression for 6 months. Can
Yeah.
you say a little bit about, like you said, I'm not a writer anymore, and that's a thought that you experienced.
Yes.
What what else was it that was so depressing? And more importantly, how did you find your way back to writing?
Yeah. So when I wrote my first book, I was proud of it, and I got very attached to the characters and the world and the themes. I think more the pathos. Just being so invested in it, where once the ending just came out of my fingers, I didn't plan it. It just happened.
It
Maybe I
just
wasn't ready
out.
for it to end.
The characters tell you who they are, and the story will tell
Exactly.
you what it wants to say, right?
Exactly. So it just ended by itself. Um, and I was done and published. And the thought of creating a new world to me was so daunting. I
Mhm,
felt like at that time I had said everything I wanted to say in words all
mhm,
in one book. And I felt
mhm.
like, you know what? I don't have anything else I want to say anymore. I did it. The thing's
Did
done.
the
There's no
thing,
sequel.
nothing left to say. Yep.
Right. And then I was writing a lot of poetry, and just one day I sat down and I wrote. It's interesting. My second book, the first line is lyrics to a song I had written decades ago,
Mm,
and I just typed it out,
mhm,
and I let that form new language around it, and very slowly I realized I was creating a new narrative, and I was creating something interesting, or something that interested me, and
mhm.
then it all flowed out again. Um,
That speaks so much to putting something on the shelf, or even something like I had torn apart some post that I'd written a year ago that actually was pretty good. I don't realize, I don't know why, I don't even remember tearing it up, but it's not in my book anymore. I'm like, what?
Right.
We have these moments where for whatever reason we're like, nope, that's not it, or that's not the artist I want to be, or I couldn't capture the emotion. I'm brushing circles around it, and so you put it on a shelf.
Right.
That's okay. It can be there, and then maybe come back to it. Wait until you're outside of it. You're not in it
Mhm.
anymore, and then you can see it from different angles, or grow it, or go behind it, or put it in someone else's mouth as new dialogue for a character. And that's what's cool is you can keep reworking it. You can keep revisiting the things that you've created. And I guess that's why I'm writing publicly, because I've always written privately, except for periods of depression. But I went public because there are things I cannot fix with people in this life, I don't think.
Right.
I'm trying to at least fix myself or the
Yeah.
story that continues from that point, because the story cannot end in December of 2024.
Right.
It can't.
Yeah.
And it didn't.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So
Wow.
thank you for tuning in. I appreciate you so much. Where do you live?
I'm in South Florida.
Oh, South Florida. We're so far. Man,
Yeah.
that's like a 4.5 day road trip of like 2 12-hour days in Texas. And I don't know. Okay. Well, good thing there are planes. And back where we're at each other's fingertips. So thank you. Thank you. I'm going to sign off for here. Hopefully, this gives people a good enough idea of what a podcast with me could go like.
Right.
And theirs might be totally different.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Absolutely. And that's part of the fun.
yeah, I do enjoy people also bringing in excerpts of things that they've written, a favorite project from the past, a new idea on the horizon. So it is a little bit
Well,
of
yeah.
a
Let me show. So I have two books. I have
yeah, sure.
Strung Out on Plenitudes, which was my first book,
Can
and
you
then
put
a
it
few
right
weeks
in the
ago.
middle? I want to see the whole
Yeah.
cover. Okay, that's your first book.
Yeah. And then I released maybe a month ago my Terminal Note.
Oh, that is a gorgeous cover. Who did that?
I did it.
You're so special. Look at you. You have lots
Yeah.
of talents in one. That's so
Yeah.
cool.
I'm a little bit of a polymath, so I have a lot of different interests and yeah, yeah. So yeah, if anybody's interested in metamodernism, in a work that keeps a lot of the postmodern uh, scariness of the world and tension and they enjoy irony and want to see what it's like when it's paired with true sincerity and beauty and things that we associate with being naive a lot of
Mhm.
the time and childlike and to see how those things interplay with each other and how one thing that if you pair cynicism with beauty, the the cynicism becomes more strong and the beauty comes more strong because you are pairing two completely opposite concepts.
Mhm.
And when you do that, one plays off of each other and yeah, so if you're interested in that type of writing, definitely check them out.
Awesome. Will do. And then tell us some of your band names again.
Oh, the one that I'll link was called Of Plenitudes.
Of Plentitudes.
Yeah. Or
And
Plenitudes, I'm sorry.
where would someone find this? Is it on SoundCloud or
Yeah,
MySpace? Or
I believe it's on all streaming platforms. Again, I never promoted it, so I it's just kind of sitting there as an archive of something that I've done. Um,
and did you leave it in the recordings, the broken bits of you screaming until your voice cracks? And
no, that was an older band of mine that I just found old recordings of, but I haven't posted them. This was the electronic post rock EP that I put out, where I was more focused on composing music in terms of how I was feeling during the process and not including, I can't sing, so I didn't include any lyrics or
One
vocal.
could argue that Elliott Smith couldn't sing either, and he is one of my favorite musicians of all times. Tom Waits, Lou Reed. How many men cannot sing that make amazing art? I just can't deal with this. You know what? If you think you can't sing, that's okay. If you don't enjoy
Right.
singing, that is okay. But if someone told you that you can't sing or you just didn't get a warm reception, I so adore when people just press forward anyway. And it almost requires a kind of narcissism to believe in yourself
Yeah.
that much when no one else around you is dropping even a like or a clap. And you're like, I must suck at this. And you know who did that? Jack London. And he got like, I don't know, 89 rejection letters. Everyone was like, this is shit. No one wants to read
Right.
this. He became the king of, naturalism in California. And here we have the gold rush and everything that happened after that. Like he became one of the authors that I taught as a high school English teacher decades after he died. And he got
Right.
rejected so many times that actually he kept all of his rejection letters, and you can see him in you can see all of them in a case in the Jack London Historical Park in California, where he built a
Oh,
house
wow.
for like, I don't know, 4 years. And then a few months after he moved in it with his bride, it burnt down. And
Oh,
then he
wow.
like died early. You know, life is hard
Yeah.
and keep going anyway, especially when people think you suck.
Yeah.
But maybe if people think you're being mean and irresponsible, don't keep going. That's the time to pause and journal.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Well, thank you
Uh,
so much for having me.
thank you. All
I
right.
really
We'll
enjoyed this.
see you soon. Bye, everybody. Thank you for joining. Coley, you just joined. You're going to have to watch the recording. It's all there. All right. Adios.
Take care.